Hare Krishna. Fan is creating. You can turn off the fan. Somebody can play mridanga. Hare Krishna. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotar Shatashri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotar Shatashri Srimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandakopaha Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. This morning we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4th, entitled The Creation of Fourth Order, Chapter 24, entitled Chanting the Song Sung by the Lord Shiva. This is text 17. Correct? Sangama Khalu Viprarshe शिवे नेहा शरीरिणां दुर्लभो मुनयो दध्युर् असंगाद यम अभीप्सितं संगमा खलौ विप्रर्षे संगमा खलौ विप्रर्षे शिवे नेहा शरीरिणां शिवे नेहा शरीरिणां दुर्लभो मुनयो दध्युर् दुर्लभो मुनयो दध्युर् असंगाद्यमभीप्सितम् असंगाद्यमभीप्सितम् संगमा खलौ विप्रर्षे शिवे नेहा शरीरिणां दुर्लभो मुनयो दध्युर् असंगाद्यमभीप्सितम् संगमा खलौ विप्रर्षे शिवे नेहा शरीरिणां दुर्लभो मुनयो दध्युर् असंगाद्यमभीप्सितम्. Please recite. असंगाद्यमभीप्सितम् संगमा कलौ विप्रर्षे शिवे नेहा शरीरिणां दुर्लभो मुनयो दध्युर् असंगाद्यमभीप्सितम् संगमा खलौ विप्रर्षे दुर्लभो मुनयो दध्युर् असंगाद्यमभीप्सितम्. Anybody from Vaishnavis? संगमा खलौ विप्रर्षे शिवे नेहा शरीरिणां दुर्लभो मुनयो दध्युर् असंगाद्यमभीप्सितम्. We will see word to word meaning. Sangama, association. Khalu, certainly. Viprarshe, O best of the Brahmanas. Shivena, along with Lord Shiva. Iha, in this world. Sharirinam, those who are engaged in material bodies. Durlabha, very rare. Munaya, great sages. Dadhyu, engaged themselves in meditation. Asangad, being detached from anything else. Yam, unto whom. Abhipsitam, desiring. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Vidura continued, O best of the Brahmanas, it is very difficult for the living entity engaged in the material body to have personal contact with Lord Shiva. Even great sages who have no material attachments do not contact him, despite their always being absorbed in meditation to attain his personal contact. Please recite the translation in response. The great sage Vidura continued, O best of the Brahmanas, it is very difficult for living entities engaged within this material body to have personal contact with Lord Shiva. Even great sages who have no material attachments do not contact him, despite their always being absorbed in meditation to attain his personal contact. Purport. Since Lord Shiva does not incarnate himself unless there is some special reason, it is very difficult for an ordinary person to contact him. However, Lord Shiva does descend on a special occasion when he is ordered by Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this regard, it is stated in the Padma Puran that Lord Shiva appeared as a Brahmana in the age of Kali to preach the Mayavad philosophy, which is nothing but a type of Buddhist philosophy. It is stated in Padma Puran, Mayavadam asas shastram prachannam bauddham uchyate mayaiva vihitam devi kalau brahmana murtina. Lord Shiva, speaking to Parvati Devi, foretold that he would spread the Mayavad philosophy in the guise of a sannyasi Brahmana just to eradicate Buddhist philosophy. This sannyasi was Srivas Shankaracharya. In order to overcome the effects of the Buddhist philosophy and spread the Vedanta philosophy, Srivas Shankaracharya had to make some compromise with the Buddhist philosophy. And as such, he preached this philosophy of monoism, for it was required at that time. Otherwise, there was no need for his preaching Mayavad's philosophy. At the present moment, there is no need for Mayavad's philosophy or Buddhist philosophy. And Lord Chaitanya rejected both of them. This Krishna consciousness movement is spreading the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya and rejecting the philosophy of the both classes of Mayavadis. Strictly speaking, both Buddhist philosophy and Shankara philosophy are but different types of Mayavad dealing on the platform of material existence. Neither these philosophies have spiritual significance. There is a spiritual significance only after one accepts the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, which culminates in surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, people worship Lord Shiva for some material benefit, and although they cannot see him personally, they derive great material profit by worshipping him. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Namahum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Bhagwan ki Jai Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Chandra Bhagwan ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Mai ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So I seek blessings of all the assembled devotees, in particular His Grace Anandmay Prabhu, so that we can describe and discuss something from this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, where we see the further descendants of Prithu Maharaj. So in the past episode of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have seen the entire life of Prithu Maharaj in few chapters, and we concluded Maharaj Prithu's discussion by mentioning that Maharaj Prithu went back to Godhead. So then this chapter begins with description of his descendants, how his son got victory over Indra, hence known as Antardhan, also went back to Godhead, and then Antardhan's son Harivindana also got married, begot many sons. Then his son was Bharishat, Rachini Bharishat, and then he got married and he had 10 sons named Prachetas. So technically speaking, Prachetas are grandson's grandson, no? Great grandsons of Maharaj Prithu. Hmm? So they were instructed by his father. His father was a Prajapati. Prajapati means one who is interested in increasing population, or rather one who is been given that service of increasing population. Just like Daksha was Prajapati, we generally call Daksha Prajapati. There are many Prajapatis. The first Prajapati was Brahma. But we don't generally address such personalities as Prajapatis except Daksha, because Daksha was really a very great Prajapati. In one shot, he could beget 10,000 children. I mean, I believe that is one of the biggest numbers of children begotten at one time. Like if you go in the history and see how many number of children begot at one time, there is only 7 in his modern history if we see. One case where there are 7 children born at one time. But Daksha surpasses them in excellence. He says 10,000 children at one shot. And then next he begot 1,000 children at one shot. And then 60 daughters next shot, like that. So Prajapatis means who is interested in increasing population. So Prajapati, this Prachini Barishat, begot 10 children. And they were Prachetas. And they were instructed by his father that to increase population, you please go and do meditation, do tapasya. And by the blessings of the Lord also you can increase the population. So then they went in the direction which was given by his father towards western direction by practicing certain rules. So they came across Lord Shiva. And Maitreya briefly tells that they came across Lord Shiva and they got blessings of Lord Shiva. So Vidura becomes very interested that what had happened, how is it that Lord Shiva gave them blessing. So it is to be understood that when Vidura had become interested to know more about this, the discussion between Lord Shiva and Prachetas were definitely with respect to Krishna conscious talk. It is not that Lord Shiva came them and told them how you can increase population. Definitely Lord Shiva has given instructions about devotional service. So Vidura becomes interested because Lord Shiva's audience is not very easily attainable. So when we hear this, we get a doubt in the mind. Here it is described that one who is completely detached from material consciousness and doing meditation for very, very long time, even they don't get to meet Lord Shiva. But then we see Ravana gets Lord Shiva's mercy. Then there is Tripurasur. Then there is Bhasmasur. Then there are so many demons. Sometimes it is described that Lord Shiva used to deal with these demons so much so that Lord Shiva also used to become like servant. What was his name? Tripurasura only, when he was fighting with Lord Krishna, Tripurasura told Shiva that you come and fight on my behalf. So Lord Shiva came and fought on behalf of Tripurasura against Krishna. Imagine we consider Lord Shiva as eternal devotee of Lord Krishna. So Shiva, instead of taking side of Krishna, took side of Tripurasura. On the order of Tripurasura, like that. So we get confused now, what is this? So that's why it is described that to understand the activities of Lord Shiva is very, very difficult. Just by one activity in one corner of Srimad Bhagavatam, you cannot take that aspect of Lord Shiva as ultimate. So Lord Shiva does that. Actually, Lord Shiva does not do that. So it is very mysterious way, the way Lord Shiva does. So these demigods who act on behalf of Supreme Lord as demigods, they have two roles. One is their own personal role. Another is the role of being a demigod. Like for example, we generally call Indra as Indra, but Indra has his own personal name and his own personal settings. If I am not wrong, I don't remember the name of Indra, current name of Indra, but it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Just like, for example, we know our Prime Minister is Narendra Modi. If we keep on addressing Prime Minister as Prime Minister, it is correct. But the Prime Minister is Narendra Modi right now. But the Prime Minister role keeps changing after 5 years or 10 years, like that. So this post of Indra also changes. after Manvantara. Manvantara means the change of Manus, then the demigods also change. So similarly, Lord Shiva has his own personal role as being a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. But Lord Shiva has a role as a demigod also. So Lord Shiva has a role of demigod, he works little differently. He is Ashutosha. That's why generally people are more interested in worshipping Lord Shiva than Krishna. Why? Because Lord Shiva gives material benedictions very easily. Anyone who comes offers some water and some specific leaves to Lord Shiva becomes very easily pleased, and then he gives material benedictions. May that be any demoniac person also. Lord Shiva in that way does not discriminate. He just gives material benedictions to demons also. So demons also become very happy. And, Lord Shiva gives very nice benedictions. But they don't understand that Lord Shiva gives that benediction not out of their demand for that material benediction. Lord Shiva gives that material benediction out of frustration. Just imagine somebody keeps on asking you, a beggar comes to your door and keeps on knocking your door. He's not getting away. So finally you get frustrated and open the door. What do you want? I want this. You just give it to him and say, just get lost. Right? So that is the dealing what Lord Shiva does with the demons. You will see sometimes these demons are very atheistic and troublesome. Like one demon, if I am not wrong, Bhasmasur, he was telling Lord Shiva, you come and give benediction to me. Lord Shiva is not interested. He says, I'll cut my hand and put it in the fire. And then Lord Shiva says, you cut your hand, I am not worried. And then he goes, he cuts his legs. And then finally says, if you don't come, I'll cut my head. And finally Lord Shiva says, don't torture yourself so much. What do you want? So I want this benediction. So Lord Shiva, so be it. Get lost. So that kind of association with Lord Shiva is not association with Lord Shiva. That is can never be counted by Lord Shiva's blessings. So if you really want to know Lord Shiva's blessings, so Lord Shiva's role as pure devotee is different. Lord Shiva as a pure devotee is always worshipping Lord Vishnu. If you see in the further verses of this Srimad Bhagavatam, you will see that Lord Shiva offers prayers to Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he tells Prachetas to follow these prayers. Of this, that is called as Rudra Geetam. So in this purport, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions about Lord Shiva does not incarnate so easily. So however, in Kali Yuga, Lord Shiva incarnated once. There is a verse in Padma Puran. Now if you catch Mayavadis and tell them that such and such verse exists in Srimad Bhagavatam, Padma Puran, what is that verse? Mayavadam asas shastram prachannam bauddham uchyate mayaiva vihitan devi khalau brahmana murtina. So Lord Shiva is telling to Parvati that in Kali Yuga I will incarnate once in the form of a Brahmana to speak a deviant philosophy. So imagine like somebody who is a very pure devotee of Krishna. You meet anybody across, we will tell Krishna's glories. Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please worship Krishna and make your life successful. We never say that Krishna is not Supreme Personality of Godhead. We will never end up saying that you are Krishna. Or we will never end up saying that Krishna does not exist. But this kind of deviant philosophy, Lord Shankaracharya had to speak. So some of us may know some personal details of Lord Shankaracharya, who was born in a place called Kaladi in Kerala, a South Indian Brahmana family. And he took sannyas at a very early age of around 5 or 7. Somewhere around that time he took sannyas. And he became Shankaracharya. He gave commentaries to 12 Upanishads. He gave commentaries to Vedanta Sutra, which is very well known as Sharirika Bhashya. And he also gave commentary to Bhagavad Gita. In fact, the fame of Bhagavad Gita started after Shankaracharya's commentary. That is the reason why Shankaracharya is the first one who gave commentary to Bhagavad Gita. Although he gave commentary to Bhagavad Gita in a Mayavadi understanding, but still his Gita Mahatmya is accepted by even Vaishnavas. That is the reason why when you read Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada has taken few verses from Gita Mahatmyam of Shankaracharya and put it in the introduction. So that is the greatness of Shankaracharya. So what is the greatness of Shankaracharya is that we know Lord Buddha invented around maybe 2000 years back approximately in Nepal. And Buddhist philosophy at that time was very, very prominent. Over a span of 700 years of time, the whole, the Southeast Asia and Southeast Asia was Buddhist. The Chinese country, India, and the other countries, Myanmar, Indonesia, Malaysia, all were transformed to Buddhist. And Buddhist philosophy is also very, very complicated philosophy, just like Mayavad philosophy. Mayavad philosophy is full of logics, and Buddhist philosophy is also full of logics. Generally, only we as Vaishnavas, when we have very less understanding about Mayavad's philosophy, because we are told not to read Mayavad's philosophy. Because once we get complicated in that terminology of Mayavad's philosophy, it is very difficult for mind to come out of that logic. That is the reason why even after presenting Mayavad's philosophy, Shankaracharya spoke Bhaja Govindam. Actually, his whole Mayavad's philosophy was Bhaja himself. But when he is concluding his philosophy, he says Bhaja Govindam. And he very graphically tells Mudha Mate. Mudha Mate means, oh Murkh, you have read all this philosophy, that is all philosophy for Murkhas. Now you please Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudha Mate. And of course, this composition of Bhaja Govindam, he composed maybe 10 or 11 verses, and further his disciples completed that whole section of Bhaja Govindam. So this Mayavad's philosophy is very complicated philosophy. Buddhist philosophy is also very complicated philosophy. When you sit with Buddhists and argue about Krishna conscious philosophy, generally that argument becomes very, very heated argument, because Buddhists will not accept. Buddhists will tell that this world is false. There is one instance in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We all know Lord Chaitanya travelled across South India. So when Shankaracharya invented, maybe this is 1100 or 1200 years back, just some time before Ramanujacharya was Shankaracharya. So the whole temples in South India were actually Buddhist. And Shankaracharya's credit was, he preached this Vedanta philosophy so strongly that Buddhist philosophy almost got eradicated. Hardly any traces of Buddhist philosophy were left in India. Only 1 or 2 monasteries of Buddhism. Can you imagine? The whole India was following Buddhism. And because of Shankaracharya's influence, the whole India, can you imagine, such a large span of area, got completely eradicated of Buddhist practices. Only 1 or 2 places there were Buddhist monasteries. So one such place was this place called Nagapattanam in Tamil Nadu. There was one Buddhist monastery where Buddhists existed even 500 years back when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited. And apparently that Buddhist monastery or setup was also destroyed by Britishers when they were ruling India. Now, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in South India, in a place where he is arguing with Buddhist philosophers. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also used to love sometimes arguments. Because why? Because these people who are Mayavadis and Buddhists, if you go and tell them that just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna is very merciful, just take prasadam, they will not accept so easily. That's why you will see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu argues sometimes with Mayavadis. You will see Prakashanand Saraswati, you will see Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very trickeringly argues with Mayavadis sometimes and defeats them and makes them accept Krishna consciousness. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 9th chapter. Lord Chaitanya travels to holy places. So few verses we will see of this section. So this is 46th verse. When the non-believers heard the eradication of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they came to him with great pride, bringing their disciples with him. One of them, this is 47th verse, was a leader of Buddhist cult and was learned scholar. To establish the 9 philosophical conclusions of Buddhism, he came before Lord and began to speak. Although the Buddhists were unfit for discussion and should not be seen by Vaishnavas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke to them just to decrease their false pride. The scriptures of Buddhist cult are chiefly based on argument and logic, and they contain 9 chief principles. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated these Buddhists in their argument, they could not establish their cult. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu argued with this Buddhist and established Vaishnavism. So these Buddhist people had actually become very angry for being defeated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then the Buddhist head had decided that we will feed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very obnoxious food, and by this we will destroy the religious principles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So after defeating this Buddhist monk, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sitting under a tree and happily chanting Hare Krishna. So however, the Buddhist monk and their followers, they brought non-vegetarian food and rotten food, and they covered the plate with a nice cloth, and they went and told to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, now that we have got defeated in your argument, we would like to offer this food for you. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood that these Buddhist people are offering me obnoxious food. And mysteriously we will see that a great eagle came and picked up that plate. And all the non-vegetarian food what was there in the plate fell on the bodies of Buddhist people. Generally Buddhist is the only philosophy and practice that they accept no non-vegetarian food. But you see, when they got defeated in their argument, they resorted to such kind of dirty things. So all this non-vegetarian food fell on the bodies of these Buddhist followers. And the big plate, which was actually golden. If you read through the history of India, we will know that these Buddhist monasteries were always having golden deities of Buddha. Even now when you go to the places where Lord Buddha is worshipped, they will have the deity of Buddha made out of gold. They were very, very wealthy because all the great kings who were that time ruling India had given all the wealth to Buddhist practitioners. So this golden plate fell on the head of the monk of the Buddhist priest. And then all the Buddhist followers came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because that head had fallen unconscious. And all the people came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he said, please bring back our priest head back to consciousness. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that I cannot bring him back. You are the offenders of Krishna only when you take the name of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Only when you chant the name of Krishna will he come back to consciousness. So they all chanted, being Buddhist also, they all chanted Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and he came back. And then they finally surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So to deal with Mayavadis and Buddhists is a very, very risky act. So that's why our great Acharya says that Mayavadi bhashya shunile hoile sarvanas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, even by mistake you should not hear Mayavad's philosophy. Because Mayavad's philosophy is infused with so much of poison that even if we get little bit Mayavad's philosophy, we will be deviated from our purpose of achieving Krishna. So that is the great rift between worshipping Lord Shiva and worshipping Lord Krishna. So why worshipping Lord Shiva as Supreme Personality of Godhead or the goal of life has an inbuilt, difficulty. We know in the Yajna sacrifice of Daksha, whom we have mentioned recently, he had insulted Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was personally present and he insulted Lord Shiva, speaking that Shiva does not have any auspicious quality. He is one who smears his body with ashes, he has snakes around, and he is never clean, he never takes baths. So when Daksha spoke like that, Lord Shiva got offended And the followers of Lord Shiva cursed Daksha. And the followers of Daksha cursed followers of Lord Shiva. So you see, two personalities have fight. The followers also unnecessarily take fight. Daksha and Shiva had a problem. So Shiva's followers took up to Daksha, and Daksha's followers took up to the followers of Lord Shiva. In the Bhagavatam, this is very nicely described in the 4th canto, beginning 2nd chapter. So the followers of Daksha, headed by Bhrigu, cursed Lord Shiva's followers. This is text 27 of chapter 2nd. When all the hereditary Brahmanas were thus cursed by Nandishvara, the sage Bhrigu, as reaction, condemned the followers of Lord Shiva with very strong Brahmanical curse. One who takes vow to satisfy Lord Shiva or who follows such principles will certainly become an atheist and be diverted from transcendental injunctions. Those who vow to worship Lord Shiva are so foolish that they imitate him by keeping long hair on their head. When initiated into the worship of Lord Shiva, they prefer to live on wine, flesh, and other such things. Since you blaspheme the Vedas and the Brahmanas, who followers of Vedic principles, it is understood that you have already taken shelter of the doctrine of atheism. So the followers of Bhrigu and the followers curse Lord Shiva's followers. That anybody who worships Lord Shiva with keeping specific desired goal, they become deviated. It is also mentioned that they become atheist. So to speak, the followers of Shankaracharya, they look like they are theistic people. They call that their philosophy is a very theistic philosophy, but ultimately they are atheist. Like one Mayavadi who had come to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he acted as if he is chanting Lord Ram's name. But when very secretly evaluated, he told that I am actually chanting my name. I am actually worshipping myself. So that is a very secret Mayavadi desire. Mayavadis have this secret desire that I should somehow become God. I will act as if I am not God, or sometimes just to show in the public they act as if they are not God, but they encourage their followers, you call me as God. So very, very deviant philosophy. And Shankaracharya had to speak that philosophy. Imagine a pure Vaishnava doesn't even like to see Mayavadi's face. Even by looking at Mayavadi's face, it is described that all the spiritual credits that you have acquired by doing tapasya in bhakti will all get shina if you see or encounter a Mayavadi. So that is one of the reasons why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was little hesitant to go and meet Prakashanand Saraswati. And on repeated insistence of Tapan Mishra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed that okay, there should be an instance where Krishna's devotees also defeat Mayavadi, so I'll go and meet Prakashanand Saraswati. So Mayavadis are very, very dangerous people. The moment you see Mayavadis, you should hit them. That's why Prabhupada in his mantra, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini, specifically added. So there is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vedana Manila Hoy Bodha Nastik. The Buddhists, in one sense, are very good people because they very clearly, outrightly say that we don't accept Vedas. Vedana Manila Bodha Hoila Nastik. Veda Ashrita Nastik Vad. What is this Veda Ashrita Nastik Vad? So Veda Ashrita Nastik Vad is Mayavadi. It is same as Buddhist philosophy because Buddhists tell that there is no God. Ultimately this material world is temporary, not temporary, it is illusion. Ultimately you have to become non-existent. Ultimately you have to become non-existent because God is not existing, so how you can exist? You see, very complicated philosophy. If God does not exist, how God has come into picture only to give that argument called God does not exist? You are understanding? They say that if God does not exist, you also don't exist. If God does not exist, how did the God come into the logic of not existing, hence you should not exist? It is a very, very complicated way they present their philosophies. And Vaishnavas are also very, very logical. Never think that Vaishnavas are very, very sentimental. Vaishnavas are also very logical. The Mayavadis tell that, okay, God exists, Ekam. And then Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya. So they say that everything is one. You are one, I am one, we both are actually one. When there is a concept of both, how it can become one? It is also wrong. Like, Mayavadis generally are very favorite of speaking this, I am that, Tattvam Asi. So if you are actually that, you don't say that I am that. Like, I don't say that I am that Srinath or I am that Srivas, sorry. We generally say I am Srivas. No, we don't say that I am that Srivas. The moment you say that, it becomes a different entity. But Tattvamasi, Tat means that. So the moment you use Tat, it becomes different. There is a difference between the one who is addressing that and that object. So in that way, Mayavadis are also very, very complicated people. The Mayavadis say that there is only one thing, that is Brahman. Then you say, no, you said something about Jagat. No, Jagat is Mithya. Then what about Jiva? Some Mayavadis end up saying, Jiva is neither Brahma, neither Mithya. Or they sometimes say the material energy is neither Satya, neither Mithya. So then Madhvacharya, the followers of Madhvacharya says, okay, wait. You said Brahman exists. Brahman exists, they accept. Yeah, that is one thing. You said that there is Mithya also. So there is second category of existence. No, Mithya does not exist. Yeah, that does not exist also exists, right? So then Madhvacharya follows, okay, there are two things. Then they say about when Mayavadis speak about the third tattva, neither Satyam, neither Mithyam. Then the Vaishnavas say, okay, there is third category. That category which exists, which is neither Satyam, neither Mithyam. So in this way, we beat Mayavadis. So Mayavad's philosophy is sometimes considered as poisonous philosophy. And this poisonous philosophy, just like a snake, when the snake is cut out of that venom or that teeth, it becomes ineffective. Similarly, Vaishnavacharyas come and de-teeth or de-poison this Mayavad's philosophy. But however, we should be little careful. We should not unnecessarily get into this idea that Shankaracharya was a very great personality and we follow Shankaracharya. That becomes very difficult because those who follow Lord Shiva, worship Lord Shiva, considering Lord Shiva as their goal and life, they become atheist. We Vaishnavas also worship Lord Shiva in a very, very proper way. Like Brahma Samhita says, Shiran Dadha Yati Vikara Vishesha Yogat. Just like Krishna, the milk transforms into curd, Krishna transforms into Lord Shiva to execute the orders in the material world. So we see Lord Shiva in that way and we worship Lord Shiva in the sense that he is a great Vaishnava of the Lord. So just like we worship many, many Acharyas, but we don't consider the Acharyas as Supreme Personality of Godhead. We follow their teachings, just like Lord Shiva is giving this Rudra Geetam. We follow the practices, we accept the philosophy of Lord Shiva by chanting this song. So in this way, that is a very correct way of worshipping Lord Shiva. Now people have great doubt, then if that is Lord Shiva, why does Lord Shiva come and speak Mayavad's philosophy? He could have spoken direct Vaishnava philosophy, right? If Shankaracharya was so powerful, he was Lord Shiva, he could have directly brought to Vaishnava philosophy. Just like Prabhupada, when he went to West, he saw many were Mayavadis and Buddhists. So Prabhupada also could have spoken some other philosophy other than Vaishnava philosophy. No. Why Shankaracharya spoke philosophy? Prabhupada writes it is needed at that time. Why? Because Buddhists were very, very Tarkic. So to speak to Tarkic philosophy, to bring them to the standard of Vedas, Shankaracharya used a very deceitful manners. And the other thing was, only by that kind of philosophy, Buddhists could have been thoroughly eradicated. That's why you will see many people who were living in Tamil Nadu at that time, Buddhists, when they saw Shankara's influence, they left Tamil Nadu, took boats and went to Sri Lanka. That is the reason why Sri Lanka is still having some Buddhism, traces of Buddhism. Because Shankara was preaching in Tamil Nadu. All these people left Tamil Nadu and went to Sri Lanka. Many people went to Indonesia and Malaysia like that. They left the kingdom because they were so attached to Buddhist philosophy, and Shankara was preaching so strongly that nobody could come in front marketplace also and say that I am accepting Buddhism, because Shankara's philosophy was so strong. The other reason why Shankara spoke Mayavada's philosophy is that he want to, separate out show of Buddhism, show of Vaishnavism, those who practice Krishna consciousness just for show off, but the end they want to become God. So to separate them out, those who want to become God, those who want to practice some cheap meditation and become God, like that there will be so many yoga centers. They say that if you chant this mantra, may not be now, but at least when Prabhupada was preaching, there used to be many people who used to say that you come to me, I will show you meditation by which you will become God. Like that. So to separate out these people, Shankara spoke Mayavad philosophy. But you sit with Mayavadis, they will not accept. They will say that this Padma Puran, you quoted this Padma Puran, you tell me which is the exact verse number of this Padma Puran. Because you will see this verse is being quoted, but the number from Padma Puran is not quoted. Apparently that the whole section of Padma Puran having this verse was taken out and destroyed by Mayavadis. We got to know this verse because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers have written this verse somewhere. So in that way you will see some kind of controversy centering around this. But however, we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, Prabhupada's philosophy, which is very, very clear, simple and easy to practice. So in this verse we will see the glories of Lord Shiva as being a Vaishnava, and glories of Lord Shiva being always in the meditation of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. So in this way Lord Shiva has a very special, unique position. One Srimad Bhagavatam class will not be sufficient. We have to read through the entire sections where the glories of Lord Shiva and Shiva's pastimes are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas from Acharyas. Only then we will be able to get some understanding about how Lord Shiva deals with various instances in creation, maintenance and annihilation. So going further, you will see how Lord Shiva very devotionally teaches practitioners how to pray to Supreme Personality of Godhead. That becomes part of the prayers. So very standard prayers, that you are creator, you are maintainer, from you comes the three modes, from you comes various elements of material existence, all the living beings subsist on you, like that. So all standard prayers of Rudra Gitam come. So that's all for today's discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. If anybody has any questions, anybody has any comments, they can please do so. Hare Krishna. Any questions on what we have discussed? Any comments? Maybe Anandmay Prabhu would like to add something. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.